Today in our household we're going to have for dinner a take on moussaka. So if you'd like to join in with this one, there's a few ingredients that you'll need. You can obviously substitute vegetables for whatever you've got in and whatever you'd like to put in, but this is just a quick run through of what sorts of ingredients you'll need. You need either some tinned tomatoes. Now actually I'm not going to use tinned tomatoes today. I've got some fresh tomatoes that need using up, so I'm going to wash these and chop these up instead, so I'm not going to use tinned tomatoes. You need a little bit of puree if you've got it, and then some pepper if you've got it, courgette if you've got it, an onion, and also a clove of garlic. All of these are going to be washed, peeled, chopped up. Now in addition, I've chosen to look in my fridge and see what needs using up. I've got some mushrooms there which I'm going to add in, so I'm going to wash and chop those up, and I've got a sweet potato that's still perfectly fine, but it will just bulk this dish out. I could use 2 peppers, 2 courgette, or I could add some other vegetables, so I'm going to add a sweet pepper. As well as that then, you're going to need an aubergine to do the layering. Now my aubergine, although it was only bought a couple of days ago, is already going soft, so I need to use this up now, which I will be. You need some stock. You can either use stock cube and make it up to 100 ml of liquid, or you can use some stock powder, which I happen to have and happen to need to use up. So I'm not going to use the stock cube. I'm just going to add some of this as a flake, as a powder, and then make up a little bit of water to go on top. You're going to need some mince. I've got some lamb mince in for this because it's a moussaka. It would be made traditionally with lamb. I've also got some lasagne sheets here. Probably need about 6 for when I do this at home. However, if you haven't got lasagne sheets, you'll probably be okay to try without them. I think I've done it once without lasagne sheets and just used the aubergine for the layering, and it's been fine. At the end, you're going to need some cheese to put over the top. You could either use something like mozzarella, or you could have some cheddar, something like that would be absolutely fine. I've done both previously and they both work fine. Don't need that till the very end though, so that's going to get put away. Last thing I happen to have, again still growing on my windowsill, is some basil. So I'm going to take some of my basil, I'm going to take a few leaves, I'm going to wash them, and then I'm going to slice them nice and thinly. I will rejoin you in just a minute when I've got all the vegetables prepped. Everything is going to be chopped up into fairly small dice and small pieces, except the aubergine. I'm going to wash this and cut it into slices this way along. Now to cook this dish, I'm going to put mine into a slow cooker. It is quite a large slow cooker. It can be done with more layers in a smaller slow cooker, or if you don't have a slow cooker, you could put this into a casserole dish and cook it in quite a low oven. I would suggest about 150 degrees for about 3 or so hours. I'll rejoin you when I've got all my veg prepped. Thank you. So I've prepped all my veg and put all of the vegetables except what would be my tinned tomatoes into a bowl, and I'm just going to stir those around because we're going to layer this up now. You could absolutely fry off the onion and the garlic, then add in your other vegetables, and that would add a little bit more flavour. However, I usually make this dish the night before we're going to eat it, put it in the fridge overnight in the slow cooker base, or the slow cooker chamber, take it out, and then in the morning the slow cooker goes on ready, so that when I come home from work it's ready to eat. So I don't ever tend to bother frying this off, but you absolutely could. But I've just stirred that around so that we've got an assortment of vegetables when I use this in a moment. I've chopped up my tinned tomatoes, but obviously if you've got a tin of tomatoes, just open the tin. And then I've sliced up the 1 aubergine, and I've divided it so I've got an equal number of slices. It's very easy to think, I haven't got enough aubergine here. I'll use up a little bit more on this layer, and then you end up with not enough for the second layer, so I try and do it that way. I've got my puree ready. I've got my 6 slices of lasagne sheets, or 6 lasagne sheets out. I'm not going to use any more than that. There will still be enough in this, and like I say, I've made this before with a little bit more aubergine and no lasagne sheets, and it's been fine. I've got my mince ready to go, and I've got my stock, which I'm not making up. I have got a kettle of water here, which I will put a little splash of water in when I do add the stock. So you either now need to get yourself your slow cooker base unit, or the dish that this is going to go into, or you need to get a casserole dish. Now, as I said to you earlier, my slow cooker is huge. So this is going to be very, very large to fill, but I do find that this amount that you've seen me working with today will do 3 adults, and actually it would at a push probably go to 5 or 6 adults. So if you've got a family, it certainly will probably give you some leftovers at the end. So we're going to put the first layer of the aubergine slices in the bottom. I don't know if you're able to see into the bottom of this dish, but I'm just going to pop those in. Now there isn't enough here, so I'm just going to spread them around so that when I try and cut this out, there will be enough for everybody to get some aubergine when they're eating. Now, if I wasn't using the lasagna sheets which are going in next, I absolutely would use another aubergine. So I've got 3 lasagna sheets for this layer. 1, 2 fits in really easily. The third one, you need to start being a bit creative with how you're going to make it fit. And then I get these little bits of leftover lasagna sheets which I'm just going to put around this side. The next thing I'm going to add to this is half, or just under half, of my lamb mince. So I'm going to take that out, being aware that there is the piece of paper at the bottom there, which I don't obviously want to go into my food. So that's just under a half of the lamb mince. And I'm going to break it up so that it's a nice even layer. And I have to say, I really do like this dish. It always goes down well when it's served. And the fact that it's lamb mince, just everyone in our family just enjoys having lamb as a bit of a change to normal beef. But if you don't have lamb mince, you could, I'm sure, make this with beef. It would just be a slightly different flavour. Because I've handled the raw lamb, I'm going to quickly wash my hands with some soap. Then I'm going to add in my mixed vegetables. I want to use, again, just under half of the mixed vegetables, which I've now stirred. So I have hopefully got quite a nice selection going in, so that I won't have one layer that's just onion and one layer that is just pepper, for example. Now you can add in vegetables to suit what you'd like. I've used up what I've got in the fridge. If I had some leek, I could use that. If I had some celery, I could use that. If I had some butternut squash, I would use that. There's all sorts of things you can switch around in this for this one. Now, next thing I'm going to do here is add a little tiny bit of the puree. I'm going to do this by eye and just do a few dots of puree around. Probably a teaspoon on each layer. Then I'm going to add just under half of my tin tomatoes, or for me, my chopped tomatoes. Again, just trying to make sure that they are sprinkled nicely around so that everyone will get some when we eat this later. And then, sticky fingers, I'm going to add my stock. Now, with this particular powder stock, I use about a teaspoon, and I sprinkle it just over the top, all over like that. And to that, I'm just going to add a little tiny splash of water from the kettle, about 50 ml, which is about 3 tablespoons. And I'm doing that all over so it's not all again in one place. Then we start again. So the next layer is going to be the aubergines. Again, trying to get these around, covering as much as I possibly can. There's a little bit more on those ones this time, it feels like. I think there must be slightly bigger slices. Again, the 3 sheets of lasagna. Again, get creative in how you're going to make this fit. You can obviously use more lasagna. I don't have an awful lot of lasagna sheets in, so I just want to make sure I've got enough for another meal or 2 with my lasagna sheets. Then I'm going to put the remainder, so this is now 2/3 of my lamb mince going in. Oops, I have to spray that down later. And just separate this out. This should now be a bit easier because we've got 2/3 of everything left, or just over half rather than under. There we go, so the lamb mince has just been broken up. And spread out. Again, because I've handled that raw meat, I'm going to go wash my hands with some soap. And then I'm going to add the remaining 2/3 of my vegetable mix. Oh, I've got some nice basil there, let's make sure that's in. And this is now just making sure that I've got a nice selection all the way around. And now as this all cooks, the lamb will release the fat, because lamb is quite a fatty meat, and the juices, which is nice, and that will start to soften the aubergine and the lasagna sheets. The vegetables will release their water and will also start to soften down the lasagna sheets and the aubergine. The tomatoes, or tinned tomatoes if you're using them, will again release their water, and everything starts to blend together and become really tasty. So there's my tinned tomatoes gone in. Going to add a little bit of the puree, so just like last time, probably a teaspoon, just dotted around to give it a bit of oomph. Then I'm going to finish off with a little bit of the stock powder, or for you, if you're using a stock cube, your stock liquid. And then the last thing I'm going to add in is just a little bit of that water on top, because I've not made my stock with water, so about 50 mils again of water. This then will have the lid put on it. It's going to go into the base unit of my slow cooker, and it's going to get cooked for 3, maybe 4 hours on a high heat, or my slow cooker cooks quite high and quite hot, so I will put mine on a low heat and I'll probably cook it for 4 hours. If you're going to cook this in the oven, I'd suggest you probably want it on about 150 degrees, and the equivalent in gas mark, whatever that might be, probably for about 3 or 4 hours. What you're looking for is for everything to be cooked through, and you're looking for the lasagna sheets to go soft and edible, and also for the aubergine to be soft and edible too. I hope this recipe, oh, and just 10 minutes before you serve it, pop some cheese on tops, either some cheddar, mozzarella, leave it covered over for 10 more minutes, and it will then make sure that the cheese melts and it's ready to eat. Hope you enjoy that one.